This is the end. This is the end, my friend. Dead Detective comes to a close in issue number 5, and we're going to talk about it in our review right here. See you in 3. And welcome back to Comical Opinions. This is our review of Dead Detective number 5 from Black Box Comics. This issue concludes the undead buddy cop adventure when Rex and Jim learn about a years-long conspiracy to unleash a master demon on Earth. But before we get started, please like, share, comment, subscribe, hit that bell for notification. Your attention is greatly appreciated. Make sure you stay tuned to the end for the final score. Dead Detective number 5 is written by Jay Sandlin, friend of the website and the channel. Art by Fabio Lima Jansen. Colors by James Marino. Letters by Desi Siente. And the cover art is also drawn by Fabio Lima Jansen, at least for cover A. So let's recap what happened in the previous issue. Detective Jim and Detective Rex went into the forests of Asphodel, realizing that a huge swarm of demons are coming up from the nether regions of the Great Beyond from Hell. And they're trying to figure out what's going on. They kill as many as they can. They're trying to do what they can do to stop what's happening. And they managed to quell the demon inswell for now. Meanwhile, Amanda, who is Jim's wife, is kind of fed up not getting anywhere, not getting any answers about how or where or why her husband disappeared. And she decides that the best course of action is to take it right back to the source. So she heads to the cemetery with a shovel to start digging up Rex's grave to find out where her husband might have disappeared to. Short and sweet, but to the point, and that's where we pick up with this issue. Now, Amanda's digging away, trying to find out what kind of portal or stairway or some kind of entrance her husband, Detective Jim, had disappeared into. And then a couple of the detectives who had previously worked on Rex's case before he was killed, or I should say after he was killed, have come to help her because when they went back and looked at the case files, they recognized that some things didn't add up. So something fishy, screwy, funny is going on. So they've come to help her. Not realizing that now the three of them together digging up Rex's grave, they're about to be jumped by cult leaders who were responsible for Rex's death in the first place. Back down in Hell, we get a little bit of a respite where Rex is looking for leads to figure out what's going on, and he goes to a bar where he encounters his former fiancée. They weren't exactly married, they were almost married, and who happens to also be a succubus, Lilith. And in a brief, I would say, maybe not so brief, brief flashback, we learn the circumstances of their bachelor parties and bachelorette parties, which were merged, why their nuptials were interrupted, and why they have a little bit of a contentious relationship between Rex and Lilith. While Rex excuses himself to go use the little boy's room, Lilith fills Jim in with a lot of exposition about what's going on, namely that a massive, monstrous demon from hell by the name of Bodis is responsible for all the troubles that Jim has encountered, and that the forces of darkness that Bodis has been laying the groundwork for years now is trying to create a bridge, where Asphodel is the bridge between the afterlife, the true afterlife, meaning either heaven or hell, and the physical world. Bodis has been laying the groundwork over the course of years to try and create a bridge that would open up a gateway or a portal between those three destinations so that he can pass through and emerge on Earth to bring fiery Armageddon. And to do that on the physical side of things, the cultists need to perform a blood sacrifice. Rex was one of the first to be sacrificed to Bodis. Now the very last, which is the one that's going to complete the ritual and open up the portal, just so happens to be Jim's wife, Amanda, which is why the cultists are sneaking up on them, because they have to commit the murder on top of the grave of the first blood sacrifice. And so now it's all coming together for the very end. What happens next? Rex goes to chase down whichever cultist or supernatural being who is responsible for trying to bring Bodis in from hell into Asphodel, which just so happens to be Vincent Giallo, who is the guy that he's had run-ins with multiple times over the course of years. On the flip side, Jim makes his way back with Lilith's help back to the physical world to save Amanda from the cultists and becoming the last blood sacrifice that would then open up the part of the portal between Asphodel and the physical world. They both have their fights. They both have their combats. Eventually, Jim stops the cultist from killing his wife. That interrupts the ritual and closes off the portal, sending Asphodel back to hell on the other side, where before Rex gets eaten, he manages to stall the demon long enough to make that possible, and then it all comes into play. And then it's all heavily, well, maybe not heavenly ever after, but happily ever after. Rex kind of has a brief, I should say, reunion with Lilith, and it gets a little spicy there, which is fine. And then now Jim is back together with Amanda, and he's back in the world of the living, and all is right with the world, unless Jim starts seeing things out of the corner of his eye, which may speak to future adventures regarding the afterlife and demonic forces. So that wraps it all up in a nutshell. That's the end of the 5-part arc and the end of the series for now, unless they come back with a second arc. What do we like about Dead Detective number 5? This issue goes a very long way towards kind of giving you resolution, tying up all the loose ends, trying to make it all work, trying to bring it all together, figuring out who's the big bad, what they want. It answers all the questions. There might be one or two little nitpicks here and there about things that didn't quite get resolved completely cleanly or thoroughly, but for the most part, this ties everything up in a nice, neat bow. That might be partly due to the fact that we have a different writer on this last issue, Jay Sandlin, whereas for the first 3 or 4 issues, it was all Bob Hioka. So I'm not quite sure what are the mechanics on the background behind why they changed writers for the finale, but regardless of why, it tended to work out. So there we are. What didn't we like about Dead Detective number 5? To get it to work, my goodness, Jay Sandlin had to go through a heck of a lot of convenient exposition and conversations and explain things, one thing after another, to make it all work. One of the big criticisms we had of the first, I would say, 3 issues with Bob Hioka's writing is that he did a lot of great world building, a lot of great character building, and set up scenarios, but he wasn't really moving anywhere. It was just sort of like Jim got down into into this limbo asphodel, which bridges the physical world and heaven or hell, depending on where you're going. But it was a scenario, but there was no story. They weren't pursuing anything. There wasn't a goal. He's just like, well, I'm down here now, and I'm with my ex-partner who died many years ago, and we're just going to pick up being partners now. It's a scenario, but it's not a story. And so there was a distinct lack of story that went through the first 3 issues. Now, maybe Bob Hioka thought this was going to be an ongoing and he had plenty of time to kind of get moving on a plot. But unfortunately, this series suffered for it because there was just no purpose, no direction. To make up for it, to get to this finale, Jay Sandlin had to kind of fill in a lot of that story that never got told. And it was through a lot of dialogue and exposition and just very quick hits on scenes just to kind of hit all the big points. Now, to Jay Sandlin's credit, it got there, but the fact that you had to get there and do it in the way that Jay Sandlin did it means that a lot of the front end of this arc just didn't take pacing into account, didn't get the plot in place early, and then kept things moving. Too much on world building, not enough on plot. And that's a down point of the arc as a whole. And so the back end, which is the last issue, suffers for it because Jay has to spend so much time filling in all the blanks, making things make sense, provide motivations, and do all the things that should have been done early on. And so the story feels almost a little too compact or too crammed full of stuff to make it all work and make sense and give you reason and purpose and direction and goals and momentum, which is unfortunate. Let's talk about the art. From Fabio Lima Jansen, a great artist and a really solid choice for this particular story. Lines look great. The demon designs look fantastic. The action is very energetic and not very gory, but gory enough to get the point across. And you want to have that. Asphodel needed to have that sort of felt like a real city, but with a supernatural patina on it, a little bit of a twist, a little bit of an air of the otherworldly, and Lima Jansen pulled that off spectacularly. So good job on the art overall, really solid showing. Final thoughts. What do we think about Dead Detective number 5 from Black Box Comics? Wraps up the story neatly, at the very least, gets everybody where they needed to go, leaves the door open for possibly more adventures, and the art looks great. On the downside, it's so cram-packed full of exposition and explanations and really quick plot developments to make up for the lack of plot in the first 3 or 4 issues. So it didn't quite feel rushed, but it felt over full or overstuffed with just trying to get all the loose ends tied up, and that's unfortunate. Therefore, we're going to give Detective number 5 from Black Box Comics a 6.8 out of 10. 6.8 out of 10. Hope you enjoyed this review. Let us know what you think. Do you like sort of buddy cop, supernatural type stories like this one? Or do you like your horror a little bit more mainstream? Let us know in the comments section. And if you like more reviews, please stay tuned through the outro.